Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for the final day. This is the final trial made available by the MSQ in Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. Wiping in here will have you seeing stars, and you might find yourself yelling, Ms., we don't have the space to fit all these mechanics in our heads. Tell us what to do. You might think you're doomed, but to keep you from succumbing to oblivion, my name is Mystech and I'll be your trial guide. Elegaia will deal high raid-wide damage and form 2 doomed stars around the platform. Healers top everyone off as soon as possible. Of the doomed stars, one will rotate quickly around the platform while the other one is slower, meaning that eventually the faster star will collide with the slower star. Where the 2 meet, a massive AoE circle blast will occur. To handle this, players will need to identify the slower star and move far away from where it actively is on the platform to avoid the incoming collision. Getting hit by this does really high damage and applies debuffs. This mechanic will happen many times throughout the encounter, and you'll want to avoid getting hit unnecessarily. Galaxias will knock back players from the center of the platform. Use the knockback immunity or pre-position in the center to avoid getting knocked somewhere bad. When the boss casts Elenkos, she'll either open her mouth and blast through the center of the platform, or have tears streaming down her face and blast the east and west sides of the platform. Players will have to quickly identify which version of the cast is incoming and dodge appropriately. Death's Embrace will target players with these thin cleave attacks. Spread these apart to avoid overlapping, and if you're unaffected, make sure to avoid standing in them. Feathers of Despair will then fall onto the platform and explode in wide circles. Move into a safe area to avoid getting hit. Upper Hoya will spawn a line of heads across the north side of the platform. Each of these adds will open their mouths and blast across the platform directly in front of them. Players will have to stand in between the heads to avoid getting hit. Hubris will target both tanks with heavy hitting tank busters. Move these away from others, cool down, and heal. Elegaia Unforgotten will again spawn 2 doom stars that will eventually collide somewhere along the platform. Players will dodge this initial collision in the same manner as earlier. However, this time, the collision will be recorded, rewound, and replayed when the boss cast Fatalism on the doomed stars. As such, players will have to avoid this area a second time after the cast. From this point on, Elegaia Unforgotten will now repeat with overlapping mechanics during the Fatalism cast. Be ready to adjust accordingly. Ecstasis will form Endsinger adds around the platform that will begin to cry and form dangerous puddles underneath them. These puddles will grow as the adds continue to cry, and players will have to move into the tiny safe spots remaining on the platform. Think skinny thoughts. Eventually, the boss will fly to a random edge and cast Interstellar, a massive line attack through the center of the platform, while players are targeted by circle adds. Spread apart on the safe edges of the platform, the boss will then cast multiple Elegaia Unforgottens at once, and multiple sets of doom stars will form in succession. After dodging the initial collisions, players can identify which stars will explode next by keeping an eye on the boss tether during the Fatalism cast. Make sure you keep an eye out for any overlapping mechanics during this time as well. Eventually, the boss will cast Planets, disappear, spawn a Cacodemon ad, and begin to charge up her despair gauge. The Cacodemon must be destroyed before she reaches 100 or you will die. Meteor Radiant will have multiple stars fall towards the platform in the locations indicated by their connecting lines. Players will need to move away from these areas to avoid getting hit. Meteor Outburst will mark all players for circle attacks. Spread these apart to avoid overlapping damage. Catastrophe will deal group-wide damage. Once the ad is destroyed, a countdown to oblivion will begin, and you'll need raid-wide mitigation and a tank LB3 at around 3 or 4 seconds left to avoid death. In this phase, the boss will cast Fatalism and form a gigantic star above her, before beginning another Oblivion countdown. Through the power of friendship and magic, we survive and enter the final phase. Tellus will deal high raid-wide damage. Telomania will deal damage with every swing and add a stacking damage buff on the boss. Luckily, the raid is getting stronger with each prayer as well. During this time, players will also have to move out of the ground-targeted AoE attacks. These 3 mechanics will repeat until the boss is defeated. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Can't wait to see this fight on Extreme. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.